You're called to leave the ordinary world, your current job perhaps, or how you're living your life, and you got to go out into the forest. That's the hero's journey's first phase. Then you get a guide. Harry Potter got Dumbledore. Then you get buddies, Hermione and Ron. Then you go conquer your dragons, metaphorical and real. And you're going to get dragon scars, It's going to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. You'll win and you'll learn and you'll win and you'll learn and hopefully you'll come back. It's what makes the movie interesting. If the hero gives up and whines or is just sitting there on a beach, you'd walk out of the movie theater.
All right. Hello, Brian. It is so awesome to have you here on the podcast. And I want to start with a brief story. I'm not trying to embarrass you a little bit here, but all the fans who are listening to this and my newsletter audience know that for a long time I've been talking about, I'm a fan of Heroic. I'm a fan of Brian Johnson. But I was trying to think before our interview, like, how long ago did I start reading your stuff? And so I went to the Wayback Machine. And so if people are watching this on YouTube, I'm going to show a little clip. There's a little screenshot of 20 years ago, 2003. ThinkArete.com was this this website you had, and it was talking about this concept of Arete and Aristotle and the Stoics, and I was like, I knew it was a long time ago, but man, 20 years ago, you've been a coach for me, and you've been inspiring me and helping me out. So just want to thank you for that right off the bat, because it's been a fun 20 years.
Dude, that's crazy. 20 years ago? How did you find Think Arete back in the day?
I have no clue. I just graduated from college and I was beginning my entrepreneurial journey and decided not to go to med school, sort of like your journey of not going to law school. It just felt too constricting. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take the plunge. I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and particularly in real estate investing. And, I was just looking for resources because it's a lonely journey, as we're going to talk about here, being an entrepreneur. And just the idea of stoicism, the idea of philosophy, the idea of arete, which we'll unpack here in a second, was just really resonated with me. So that was a big help for me at that point in my journey.
Dude, goosebumps. Old school. I had no idea we'd been connected for that long. That's crazy.
Yeah, so way back. And the other thing I'm really excited about is to go full circle 20 years ago, you've written a book now called Arete, and it's on your t-shirt. And I'm going to be, just for people to stick around to the end, I'm going to be giving away 10 books to my audience members. I'm going to be giving away those to just having a contest to kind of get excited about it. So this is an amazing book. This is an amazing movement. I'm excited to talk to you and unpack this. And I thought I would start with this idea, the mission of my audience and what we talk about on Coach Carson. It really, if you boiled it all down, it comes down to freedom, this word of freedom. And I have kind of one foot in the real estate investing world, one foot in the financial independence, retire early world. And so we invest in real estate, we buy properties, we try to make money, but really the concept is these small investors want to achieve freedom. They want to have more flexibility and abundance of time. And so I was just curious for you, I know a lot of your movement is about different virtues, different values. That's one of the most important for us. I just want to see what your relationship to that word was and how that fits into the heroic and the arete mindset.
Dude, have you heard my take on the FIRE acronym?
A little bit. Yeah, I'd love to unpack that, though. Let's
yeah. So then rather than retire early, so I like financial integrity, and again, there's a lot of different ways you can use that, but financial integrity. Are you living in integrity with your highest values in every area of your life? And in this scenario and in context in your financial life, or are you seduced by all the shiny things that you need to go get in order to be good enough and all the things that then make you on the hamster wheel where you don't have the freedom? So I love financial integrity. And I don't talk about it a lot, but I'm a big fan of the movement. We moved from California to Austin 3.5 years ago before the diaspora. Cut everything in half was the game. And let's let our state taxes pay for the mortgage on the way out. It's like, all right, cool. So we're big into that, dude. I don't talk about it a lot, and I haven't done the notes on the books I've read on the subject, but I've read the books, and I'm a big fan. But I like financial integrity. And yeah, retiring early, sure, that's nice. But what I'm really committed to helping people do, and I think your movement is so important to help people do, is realize eudaimonia is how I do the R and the E. So realize the summum bonum, the greatest good of life, according to Aristotle, who's on my wall back there, is to experience a deep sense of eudaimonia, which we translate as happiness, but it means something closer to expressing, the best version of yourself, flourishing, actualizing your potential. And of course, the one-word answer on how you do that is to live with Arete. virtue, excellence. We'll talk more about it. But anyway, I'm a big fan of the FIRE movement, redefine it a bit, financial integrity, realizing eudaimonia, and then freedom is everything. At the end of the day, Viktor Frankl's on my wall back there too, behind one of my heroes. But between a stimulus and your response, there's a gap. In that gap, he says, exists your freedom. Now, I don't care whether you're talking about, your energy in the form of money or your relationships or your business. Do you have the ability, the freedom, to step in between a culture's stimuli and choose the best, most heroic response? So I love the word freedom, fire, all the things you stand for.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, and expanding the idea of freedom as well. One of the things I've taken from your lessons is that really on this journey of being an entrepreneur, that it is not just about this outcome that we're trying to get the results. In fact, it's about you, the entrepreneur, who's having to grow into that journey, having to become the person, become your best self. And one of those ideas that I want to unpack Arete right off the bat is that you mentioned that eudaimonia, this ancient Greek word of being your best, of aspiring to, if you're up here, this is your potential, of like kind of closing that gap. Could you talk more about like what Arete is and why how that relates to us in the modern world who we're trying to work our jobs, we're trying to save money, we're trying to raise our kids. Like what does that mean to us?
Yeah, so then the quickest way to describe Arete is if you ask the ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, or the ancient Roman Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, hey, how do I live a good life? Well, first of all, they tell you a good life is to actualize your potential, to be a eudaimon, live with eudaimonia. But their one-word answer to the question of how to live a good life is Arete. So we directly translate the word as virtue or excellence, but it means something closer to expressing the best version of yourself moment to moment to moment. The way I like to frame it up is, look, if you're capable of being this in any given moment, and there's a gap between who you could have been and who you're actually being, it's in that gap in which regret, anxiety, disillusionment, depression, etc. exists. It's more nuanced than that, of course, but in any given moment, if you live with Arete, if you express the best version of yourself, there's no room for that stuff. And you feel really, really good. The Greeks called that eudaimonia. We would call it a deep sense of happiness. Not yellow, smiley face sticker happiness, but no. Life's still hard. We still face challenges, but we know we're doing our best. And we have deep meaning, deep joy that comes only when you're living in integrity with your highest ideals. That's the basic idea of Arete. I've tattooed my body with it. The name of the book, of course, is Arete. It's the one-word summation of everything I've studied. Ancient wisdom, modern science. Everybody says the same thing. Be your best self. Not someday, not in your New Year's resolutions, moment to moment to moment. When you do that, you win the ultimate game and you feel great.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the reframing of financial independence, realize eudaimonia, because a big part of what I'm trying to do with my own mission, it is a financial real estate investing focused platform, but I just wrote a book called The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor. And one of the things I was trying to push back against was it just seems like in the business world, the financial world, maybe you've noticed this, there's this sort of ambition to become a billionaire, to, in our world, own 1,000 properties. And it's like there's this ladder, that success is at the top of the ladder, and we measure the material results of that is success when you've done more of whatever that thing is. Yep. And so I love the idea, realize eudaimonia. You talk about that as the ultimate currency, the ultimate game you're playing is trying to realize that. And really that's, if I was honest with myself, that's really why I'm trying to have that freedom, is that space, that time abundance to connect with that, to be a better self, to exercise, to be with my kids. Like those things are like the specific translations of that word eudaimonia.
100%. Let's go there, because your ladder idea, it's what Stephen Covey used. So Stephen Covey would say, hey, look, this is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about the same things. So you got to know the ultimate game is the way I frame it up in the book. It's objective 1 of the book, the coaching program, everything we do. And he says, look, you may get to the top of the ladder and you look down and you realize, oh my God, I put the ladder against the wrong wall. So you want to make sure you're putting your ladder against the right wall. David Brooks talks about the same thing, the second mountain. So you get to the top of the first mountain, you've got your X, pieces of real estate or the initials after your name, and you won all the games everyone told you to play. Yet you still aren't happy. Why is that? Because you missed the game. The real game to play is intrinsic, not extrinsic. So if I'm going after, in your context, 1,000 units of property, I'm a billionaire, then I'm going to be happy. All right, well, good luck with that. Your fame, your wealth, your hotness, your Instagram followers, etc., are not going to lead to the happiness you want. Nothing wrong with them, but the science is unequivocal. If you chase those extrinsic measures of happiness, fame, wealth, and hotness, predominantly, you don't need to go to 0%, but if that's your main focus, you will be less psychologically stable, the psychologists say, than those who focus on the intrinsic, which are becoming a better person, deepening your relationships, having time for them, as you just said, and making a contribution to your community. And that's it. That's a good life. And again, when you still win the little games, so you still go do what you need to do to create financial independence and all the other fun things, and have fun with it. I use my son and his passion for chess as a little game he plays in order to win the bigger game, which is, no, be your best self in every aspect of your life. But I love the concept of your new book and how you're approaching things. It's super important to step back, point out the obvious, we've been seduced to play the wrong game, and then teach people how to consider playing a wiser game.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples of what you're saying, just to bring a UCLA reference, you're a UCLA grad. One of my favorite guys is John Wooden, the basketball coach. And I love his story where he talks about his definition of success. It has nothing to do with wins and losses, although he's the most winningest basketball coach in college basketball history. Wins wasn't how he measured success. Just like real estate properties isn't how we need to measure success. It was, what do you have to be? What kind of person do you have to be? If your potential's up here, are you reaching that potential today, this moment? And he actually executed that with a plan, with a practice schedule, with a monthly or a yearly, learning how to put your shoes on. I don't know if you want to talk about Coach Wooden a little bit, because he's a hero of mine as well.
All day. I got Coach behind me. He again is behind one of those guys back there. But so Coach Wooden, UCLA Bruin, where I went to school, won 10 championships in 12 years. As you may know, voted, as you definitely know, and as one watching us may know, voted greatest coach of the year by century by ESPN, greatest coach of all time by others. But he focused on the basic fundamentals. So one of the stories that's kind of well told and legendary is he'd work with Lou Alcindor before he became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, greatest athletes of his era. Before he let them touch a basketball, he would personally teach them how to put on their socks, their basic fundamentals. Literally, here's how you do it, boys. Pull up the sock real tight. Then he'd teach them how to tie their shoes. Because if they couldn't do that most basic fundamental act well, then he didn't think they could do anything well. And they may get blisters. They may have to sit out some practice time. They wouldn't perform as well. But he was focused on the process and not the outcome. Now, of course, he wanted to win, and he won a lot. But his ruthless obsession was, did you give your best? Did you control the two things the Stoics say are within your control? Your thoughts and your behaviors. Full effort, great energy, let's go. Today's the day. And if you do that, you tend to win all the other games, whether it's an NCAA championship or real estate opportunities. And one of my mentors told me that my consciousness, was my business's greatest asset. And it really stuck with me. So for me, is it work or is it love when I prioritize my energy? Yes. I train as much as I need to in order to show up with energy, but I show up like I'm a disciplined world-class athlete. Because my energy, my consciousness, how I eat, how I move, how I sleep, how I breathe, how I focus my mind, affects every aspect of my life. So the fundamentals are obviously fundamental to everything I do. It's objective 6 in the book, dominating your fundies. But I love Wooden, hero of mine, and just a beautiful human being who frames it up just absolutely perfectly.
Agree. Well, I want to go there. So you unpacked you are your number one asset. That was actually one of the most important things I wanted to talk about, because we as investors, entrepreneurs, we think a lot about strategy. We think a lot about technique and what financing technique are we going to use now that interest rates are 8%. Like, people obsess about that, and understandably, like, it's a challenge, right? I love how you've said in the past, as I've listened to you, that if somebody were to come to you for coaching in whatever realm they're trying to get better at, in this case, investing and entrepreneurship, the first question you would ask them was like, well, did you get a good night's sleep last night, or did you exercise this morning? And they might get even a little frustrated. Like, well, no. Like, I want to talk about like the real stuff. Could you unpack why you think those things, those seemingly mundane things in our personal life, are actually truly, literally the number one investment we can make to make more money, to be a better business owner, whatever the case might be.
100%, dude. So let's go back to the ancient Greek idea of eudaimonia. Eu is good in ancient Greek, and daimon is soul. Eudaimon, good soul. So their whole philosophy was you have this little guiding spirit within you, right? They called it a daimon. And they basically said you need to connect to that best version of you. The Romans adapted daimon into their word for that guiding spirit, which was genius. So when anyone did anything amazing, it was said their genius did it, not them. Now we adapted that to you're a genius, but in ancient times, everyone had a genius or a daimon. And the whole game of life is to connect to your daimon, to your genius. Stephen Pressfield talks about this. Stephen King talks about it. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it. They don't write their books. Their daimon does. I don't run my business. My daimon does when I'm doing it well. So every single thing in my life is architected to help me connect to the best version of myself. So how I eat, how I move, how I sleep, shutting down on time so I can spend time with my family so I can get a good night of sleep. So my aura scores this morning, 90, 92. And again, I perform at an insanely higher level when I have 8.5 hours of sleep versus 6 or 6.5 hours of sleep. Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, these guys prioritize their sleep. What did sleep have to do with them becoming billionaires? Everything. If you're tired, you are not going to see how you should deal with an economy in which there's an 8% interest rate. You're not going to figure that out. Your best self, your smartest self, your wisest self can help you do that. So anyway, that's how I approach everything. Literally everything. I architect my days such that I'm, the AM bookends, the PM bookends, and trying to be in a place where I can think strategically. And who do you want to do business with? A grump? Someone that's just cranky and edgy and a bit of a jerk? Or do you want to be, and I can be all those things, or do you want to do business with someone who's alive and you feel their enthusiasm, you want to spend more time with them? Well, you want to be that guy or that gal for the individuals with whom you're going to do deals. Those things matter. Not even at the margins. Like those are significant material things. And oh, by the way, you're going to enjoy it a lot more in the process as well. So yes. That's some of how I approach it.
Absolutely. Sleep has actually been one of the biggest aha moments, reading your work and just getting your coaching. Sleep has a long time been a challenge of mine, and it was also often connected to entrepreneurship. I thought, okay, I got to grind. I got to go do this. I got to work late at night. And probably 5-6 years ago, I really started working on this. And the app, the heroic app that I use every single day, the first thing in my energy that I swipe every day is like, did I do my digital sunset the night before? So could you unpack that specific strategy that you talk a lot about? If you do want to get a good night's sleep, it doesn't start this morning. You actually had to work on that the night before. What are some ways we can attack that?
Darren Hardy, I love his compound effect. So Compound Effect, I'm sure that you've recommended that, but such a great book, And he talks about the fact that your masterpiece days, as I call them, which is the fourth objective in the book, make today a masterpiece, has bookends. Your AM and your PM bookends, you tend to have more control over than the middle of your day. So he says, and I completely agree, and everybody says, control them. Do the important things that help you create great days in your AM and your PM. Now, I extend that by saying today started yesterday. So if your PM bookend sucks and you're staying up late, binge watching or eating late and doing all the things you frankly shouldn't be doing, and you're getting an hour or two less sleep than you should because you're watching pseudo heroes on a screen, or God bless you, doing whatever you're doing, or even grinding, working late, and you wake up tired, well, today started last night. So you want to get control of your PM bookend. I do that by having a shutdown complete ritual where I end my day, I no longer work. I transition to love, and then I get two benefits. I recover my attention, my mind, is able to shut off so I can fall asleep easier, and I'm spending time with my family such that I wake up feeling great. This morning, last night I went to bed at 8. We tucked in the kids, went to bed at 8 p.m., whatever. I got up without an alarm, a few minutes before 5, feeling great. Let's go. It's dark out. I'm doing my best work, thinking, a little bit of meditation, strategic thinking, then what's important now. But that PM to AM connection changed my life. And it sounds like it influenced, how you're structuring your days. We've gotten a lot of powerful feedback on that.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges I had, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are like, okay, I know sleep's a problem for me, or I know my nutrition. One of those fundamental things is a problem, but I've got these other habits that I've just been doing this for years, and I've got these habits ingrained, and I'm not doing it that way. You talk a lot about how, even literally from a financial standpoint, if you were to go and find like the secret vault where the most valuable part of your life is, it's these habits that you have, like the part of your brain that has these habits. And so, yes, it is really difficult to change those. So could you unpack a little bit of that? Let's take sleep, for example. If you really wanted to change your sleep habits, how would we approach that from a habit standpoint so that we could kind of unlock those old habits that were not working well for us and that we can install some new ones?
Yep. First most important thing is you gotta prioritize it. We've been seduced to play the wrong game. We've been told to go chase all these extrinsic things. It should be easy, and you should be able to do it on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. And if you can't, something's wrong with you. And frankly, you should be able to have it all. So you should be able to stay up late, eat whatever you want, rarely move your body, and still feel great. How's that working for you? And here's the pill that's going to solve that for you, so you don't need to actually do any work. Well, longer chat on the choice of Hercules, but life's not supposed to be easy. Go give us what you got. But the number one thing for sleep is you got to prioritize it. And again, if you're dialed in and you feel great and you're getting by on 5-6 hours of sleep and you feel unbelievable, you're stable, and you're just crushing it, well, God bless you. Maybe you're 1 in 11,000 people that can get by on less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So science says you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I frankly need 8 plus. That's when I feel my best. Starts to diminish, my own kind of vitality. Of course I can perform on less, but I feel best with that. The odds of you being the person that genetically can get by on less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep are the same as your odds of being struck by lightning. 1 in 11,000. Good luck with that. And again, be honest with yourself, and if it isn't quite working the way you want, sleep, getting 1 more hour of sleep is the most powerful way to change your life, literally overnight. So again, habit change starts with motivation, and motivation starts with a strong why. So you've got to make the connection to the habit you have now and whether or not that's working for you. Then you got to believe you can change your life. And in Objective 5 in the book, just to make sure we briefly highlight on each, it's Master Yourself, in which I talk about the art and science of behavioral change. B.J. Fogg, James Clear, Charles Duhigg, they all wrote great books. Tiny Habits, Atomic Habits, The Power of Habit. B.J. Fogg says, most people think because they failed at changing their habits, that it's a character flaw, that something's wrong with me and you and anyone listening to this. And he says, no. What if it's actually a design flaw? What if you just haven't learned how to do it? And it's really simple, frankly, to change behaviors. It doesn't make it easy, but it's simple. The science is unequivocal, and we've all experienced behavioral change effectively. But that's my starting point, and we can drill into the specifics on sleep, but you got to want it, and then you got to believe you can create it. Then you got to do the work to figure out how to do it. I'll pause there and see where you want to go.
No, I think that's excellent. And I would love to go into a little of the tactics of habit change. And I know, James Clear's, I'm a fan of that as well, and BJ Fogg. Specifically, I mean, let's tie it to sleep. Let's say you have this habit of picking up your phone at night and going past 10 p.m. and looking at your phone, and that gets a lot of light that's messing up your brain patterns. If you were coaching me and that was the thing I was doing, what would be one way? What are some of those habit principles that we could use to change that?
First, I'd want data. So you can't change what you're not measuring. So I'd want to know, all right, how much sleep are you getting right now? Do you use an Aura, a Whoop, a Fitbit? What are you doing? How much sleep are you getting right now? And then you got to know that the time in bed doesn't equal amount of sleep you're getting. So I was in bed for 9 hours and something last night, and I got 92% efficiency, which is great, but that's still only 8 hours and change. But I would want to know when you're getting up, when you're going to bed, how long you're in bed, and how much sleep you're actually getting. And then I'd say, well, how much do you want to get? And we'd almost certainly need to +1 that, as in plus it an hour. So I'm going to look at when you're going to bed, and I want you to be able to get up without an alarm earlier than probably you're used to getting up, feeling great. So now we look at the end of your day, and I'm going to ask you, all right, well, what are you doing from 9, 10, 11, 12 that's so important that's keeping you up? And I'm going to remind you that you do better work when you're more energized and sell you again on that. But I'd go into the details, and I'd try to see when you're getting up, when you're going to bed, when you need to go to bed in order to get up feeling refreshed. And then Then I would look at, we'd set a time, not a alarm time in the morning, but a time by which you're going to go to bed. So the number one target in my app that I use on Heroic is in bed by 7:59 p.m. Again, that's my target, such that I can be in bed for 9 hours, getting my 8+ hours of sleep, and I'm waking up at 4:35 a.m. feeling great with no alarm. And again, relative to the time of the year. But anyway, I architect your end of day routine. So I start my days at 5. And I end my days at 5:36. I'm working hard right now. And I will literally put in a 12, 13-hour day between that with oscillations, but I'm going. But then I'm done. I shut down. And I turn my phone off. I spend time with my family. And then I'm in bed. 2 hours after that, shutting down. But I'd want to architect that PM routine with prioritization for you waking up feeling energized. I'd shut you down, your work at a certain time. Then we'd go at least an hour before you want to go to bed. All electronics off. You briefly hit it. But blue light, until very recently, never existed from any source other than the sun. Thomas Edison, his invention is just over 100 years old. That's crazy new. When you are consuming blue light, your mind thinks it's daytime. You're stimulating yourself. The cortisol is up. The melatonin is not where it needs to be. My kids at 4 years old could tell you that blue light disrupts melatonin. Literally, it's the quote they would give. That's not going to help you get a good night of sleep. So again, you prioritize it, then you structure it, and things change. I mean, we've had so many people tell us that their lives changed when they got that extra hour of sleep.
Yeah, I love it. So to me, the thing that resonates with me there, number one, prioritize it. Like so many of us, we have things we prioritize in our life. We go to a doctor's appointment and we have an appointment time. We put it in our calendar and we do it, right? So we follow through on that. Our kids have a parent-teacher conference. We show up at that. Really just putting that in your schedule and saying, this is the time I want to do it. This is important to me, and I am my number one asset. If investing and if my business and if my work life is that important to me, this bedtime is that important. And that's really been the priority reallocation for me has been a huge deal. And yes, the habits are important and the details are important too, but without that kind of reorientation of that it actually is important, to me, it seems like such a fundamental shift.
Let's bring it back to freedom. So one of the reasons why people may not be able to do that, and there are a lot, and we all have idiosyncratic realities, kids play late and all this stuff. Perfect. I play sports. I get it. But the opposite of freedom is addiction. And addiction comes from an ancient word that meant slavery, basically, to be bonded to, to be owned by, to be enslaved to. So your freedom to choose what you want to do in any given moment, including turning off the electronics and saying, I am going to be in bed by this point in time. Just notice how much of the show you're not running because of addictive behaviors, and create the freedom in your life to choose what you want to do. Turning off the news, turning off the social feed, turning off the email, and then really importantly, end your workday and be with your family. The reason you're working so hard is because you say you want to spend more time with your family. Perfect. Work hard. And when you're done working, don't work. And be fully present, which gives you the benefit of being present for your loved ones and family while recovering. So you're not trading. You're not losing on this. And again, when I had my first kid, all of a sudden I had tighter constraints. I got more done in less time. I get more done with my energy up than I will ever get done grinding, and I work hard. So I don't even make the trade. I still work hard. But you will never be able to get done. Solving the 8% interest question doesn't get done with a tired brain. It just doesn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you can work an hour or two or three or four less with a focused mind that's energized and you're doing what's important now. And again, that's part of your ethos and what you coach others on is get the most out of life, whether it's your financial resources or your time resources. Quit squandering it unconsciously, right?
Love it. All right, so I hope people absorb that point. This is so good, yeah, and I believe it wholeheartedly now that your personal investments are going to be a higher return on investment than anything you can do with your time or your money. So 100%. I hope people take that to heart. You started talking a little bit about one of your core ideas. In the financial world, we talk about balancing your assets. You invest in real estate, invest in index funds. But one of your core ideas is that we also have, on a day-to-day basis, we have to find this balance between kind of the important parts of our life, our energy, we've talked about that, our work, our love. Could you unpack that a little bit and just talk up, because for me, that balance between those three is not easy, but it's also one of the most important parts of freedom and being able to have the flexibility to prioritize those things.
I love it, dude. Such a great chat, man. I appreciate how we're hitting all these important themes. So we like to call it the big three: energy, work, and love. Freud said a good life comes down to work and love. I say yes, and if your energy sucks because of poor choices, then you're not going to show up powerfully in your work and love. So it's easy to get overwhelmed with self-development. We like to simplify it: energy, work, and love. I think it's more about integration than balance.
Yeah.
And then when I think of balance as a verb, not a noun. It's balancing.
Yeah.
So it's like Osho said, a tightrope walker is walking across the tightrope of life. You're never actually in balance. It's not static. You're a little bit too far this way, a little bit too far that way. It's dynamic. So I think it's important to look at our lives and say, look, I'm going to constantly dynamically integrate each of these different facets of myself, but get really clear on the fact that a good life isn't all one thing. You get your energy dialed in, that's great. You can apply it to your work, but if that's all you do and your love isn't there, your connection to your spouse and your family and your kids, etc., isn't there, you're not going to feel fulfilled. And of course, if you're not feeling satisfied in your work, your energy and love aren't going to be enough to carry the weight. You got to find that balance with all three: energy, work, and love. And this is, again, how we architect or the app and everything we do is, who are you at your best? Get clarity, create an identity in your energy, your work, your love. What virtues do you embody in energy, work, and love? And then most importantly, what do you do when you're at your best, energy, work, and love-wise? And the exercise I now do, which I didn't have when we ran the coach program, the first few cohorts, is bust out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on the left put do, and on the right put don't. And think of you at your best. We've all experienced moments in which we really showed up, days and weeks and months, perhaps even years. What were you doing? What were you not doing? Think about it in energy, work, and love. And life is simple. Do more of the things you did when you're at your best and less of the things you don't do when you're at your best. Repeat. And then I like to circle, and I do this exercise myself all the time. Anytime I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or a little wobbly, or I just want to go next level. Like right now, we're recording this, 15 days before we launch the book. It's go time for me. This is my Super Bowl. I have spent 25 years training for this moment, right? I am on like I've never been on. So I'm asking myself, what's the one thing I could be doing that if I did it more consistently would most help me show up with the energy, productivity, connection I want? And what's the thing I need to stop doing? For me, it's my nutrition protocol and eating 4 hours before I go to bed. When I do that with a fasting window, my HRV, my resting heart rate just goes through the roof. Of course, there's the digital sunset. I'm doing the cold plunge. I'm doing all the obvious training and basic things. But I find that to be really helpful personally, and we've gotten great feedback. But to come back to your question, you got to integrate energy, work, and love, and you've achieved success in the past. You just need to dust off kind of the checklists that worked and do it more often.
Yeah, and what I love about what you're saying is also there's not one specific best way to do it. There are some best practices, but what your app's about and this book, Arete, is about is we know the wisdom inside of ourselves. Like we know when we are at our best if we just pay attention to that and then create the habits, which the app is such an amazing tool at. You create the habits to do that. We have it inside ourselves. We actually don't have to learn a new thing. We need to uncover that wisdom that we've had all along.
100%, dude. And then just do it more consistently, especially, by the way, when you don't feel like it. And that's the whole idea of anti-fragile confidence, which we may talk about. But most of us, when life hits us hard, whether it's COVID, 8% interest, we're like, oh my God. And we stop doing the things that we do when we're at our best. We need to, I believe, flip that around. The harder life is, the stronger our commitment is to practicing our philosophy and showing up. I like to say I double down on my protocol when life gets hard. Then everything changes. The things that used to break us become the things that catalyze us to the next level of growth.
All right, so I am going to go there. One of my favorite authors, even before I met you, was Joseph Campbell. And the idea of a hero's journey has always resonated with me, and particularly in the context of being an entrepreneur. We the small and mighty investor, going on this journey, we personally have to grow But one of the things that I think I had to learn for myself, my wife and I just had a conversation about this morning. She was listening to one of your plus ones, Brian, and it was this idea that when you put yourself on this hero's journey, you're trying to accomplish something really hard that all of a sudden you're really uncomfortable and it's difficult. And my wife was saying that a couple of weeks ago, she's doing some new professional things, teaching English and working with refugees. And she was like, every morning she's like, I don't feel good. Like, this is really uncomfortable. And she listened to one of your plus ones and you were like, it's not supposed to be comfortable. Like, you're a hero. You're going through the journey. So maybe, can you unpack that idea that we are not exonerated from these difficult processes, that we have dragons, not lizards that we're trying to fight on this journey?
Yeah, so love the fact that you and your wife were talking about it. And go, wifey. That sounds like such a cool opportunity. So objective 1 is know the ultimate game. Objective 2 is forge anti-fragile confidence, in which I talk about rule number 1 of the ultimate game, which is it's not supposed to be easy. So again, we've been seduced to play the wrong game. Then we've been told it's supposed to be easy. So then when you feel the inevitable anxiety, overwhelm, even depression, and just it's not rightness, you think something's wrong with you. But nothing's wrong with you. It's not because you're you, it's because you're human. So it's supposed to be challenging. That's a really important thing to grasp, and it's always going to be challenging. My coach, Phil Stutz, beloved spiritual, father, is in the Netflix documentary called Stutz with Jonah Hill. He came up with the word that, for me, of exoneration. We all want to be exonerated. We all want to get to a point where we no longer have to experience pain, uncertainty, and hard work. Insert philosophical laughter. You're never going to get to that point. Embrace it. Bring it on. Your growth occurs outside of your comfort zone. By definition, when you leave your comfort zone, it feels uncomfortable, but you got to get good at embracing that discomfort, realizing it's a sign, check in and see what's working, what needs work, but embrace it. And so the good hero's journey has 3 parts from my vantage point. Joseph Campbell's on my wall back there. I happen to be in a documentary called Finding Joe, featuring his wisdom alongside Deepak Chopra, Laird Hamilton, Tony Hawk, etc. But a good hero's journey has 3 parts to it. 1, the hero is in the ordinary world and they get a call to adventure. It's the voice in your head that says, meh, there's more to life than this. You're called to an adventure. You're called to leave the ordinary world, your current job perhaps, or how you're living your life, and you got to go out into the forest at the darkest point. You got to do the uncomfortable. That's the hero's journey's first phase. Then you get a guide. Harry Potter got Dumbledore. Then you get buddies, Hermione and Ron, right? Then you go conquer, or you go fight your dragons, metaphorical and real. And you're going to get dragon scars, It's going to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. You'll win and you'll learn, and you'll win and you'll learn, and hopefully you'll come back. Phase 2, you're battling your dragons with your guides and with your buddies. But again, it's supposed to be challenging. I just watched Mission Impossible, right? 2 hours into the 2 hour and 47-minute newest one. All it is one challenge after another. It's what makes the movie interesting. If the hero gives up and whines, or is just sitting there on a beach, you'd walk out of the movie theater. You are the hero of your own life. Are you complaining about the challenges, or are you showing up and saying it's time to figure out how to solve this one and that one? Anyway, that's phase 2. You battle your dragons, real and metaphorical, and not lizards, to your point. And then you come back with the boon, as Joseph Campbell said it. Those challenges are meant to transform you. You come back with gifts that you give to the world, to your family, to the community, etc. You become a stronger, better person. That's the way I see the hero's journey. And framing up our lives with that lens is a really powerful context. And that's why the subtitle of the book is Arete, Activate Your Heroic Potential. We're all called to be the heroes of our own stories, and that's an important theme of everything that we do.
One of the ideas that's really transformed me, the heroic idea, is this when you explain that hero, the old word hero, isn't this movie star who has big muscles and who's just the baddest dude on the block. this is actually someone who is doing this for a bigger purpose, for other people.
Yep.
They have strength. And can you unpack that a little bit? That's been one of the, it's particularly with money, because money to me, at some point you make enough money and you're like, okay, that's cool. But the fulfilling part is when you have a business that serves other people and you get to see their success and you use money to flow to help other people. And so to me, hero is the perfect term for entrepreneurs. And I'd love to hear you explain that for everybody.
100%, dude. So I have Arete on this arm, and then I've got heroic on this arm. I'm all in, folks. But the ancient Greek word hero, we get it from ancient Greece again. The word hero in ancient Greece didn't mean tough guy or killer of bad guy. The word meant protector. So I want to reintroduce Arete into the cultural vernacular, and I also want to redefine what it means to be heroic. So to be heroic means to protect your family, your community, the values that you cherish. A hero has strength for two. A hero is willing to do the hard work to have that strength for two. And a hero's secret weapon in ancient Greece and modern times is love. So it's serving our family and our community. It's creating the financial abundance so we can give back. And in the process of creating financial abundance, I mean, that's a virtuous act. I just got back from the Conscious Capitalism event led by John Mackey and Raj Sisodia. Business is sacred. Full stop. The free exchange of goods is a beautiful, noble thing. There is value creation in what you're doing to create these homes, and whether they're rental properties or enhancing the value in them so another family can move in. These are sacred value creation, service-oriented things. We want to have that in mind, have that purpose beyond just making money in mind, and then know that the resources that we're creating for ourselves, energetic wealth, financial wealth, relational wealth, the ability to create, to solve hard things like that 8% interest challenge. How do you do that? These are assets that the hero works hard to craft. And again, the hero's the one that's not a victim. They're not complaining about life right now. They're not criticizing, complaining, gossiping. You know, they're saying, all right, what do I want? That isn't what I want. I don't want to see a world in which this is happening or my kids are going through this. I want to create that world, and I'm going to do what it takes in order to create that. That's the idea of a hero. And then in the book, I talk about the fact that, you know, I've got a lot of heroes on my wall and in my life, but ultimately I've got one favorite hero, and it's you. You know, it's the individual listening to this right now. You are my all-time favorite hero. Go look in the mirror. You're the one we've been waiting for. Step up. Why you like, if you like Mission Impossible, whatever hero stories you like, you see yourself on the screen. That's why we're all pulled. The myth of the hero is universal. And it's universal because we each have that pull within us to be our best selves. And then I like to say the moment you live with Arete and you close the gap, you are heroic. You don't need to wait. You don't need to wait until you're financially independent or you're a best-selling author or whatever. That moment, you are living with eudaimonia. You are heroic. And then we just need to string together enough of those moments such that the world reflects our consciousness. And it may take time. It will take time. You know, but John wouldn't it? Focus on being your best self. And then you'll tend to win the, quote, championships in life while winning the ultimate game, you know, moment to moment to moment and day in and day out.
Beautiful. I love it. And of course, I'm going to have a link to Arete, the book, and I'm going to be giving away books. This is something, if you resonated with any of these ideas, you need to get your hands on this book, on this movement, get the app. I'm going to wrap up with one more question, Brian. This is sort of a selfish, personal one as well. I've heard you talk a little bit about this idea of ambition and having a little bit of ambivalence with ambition. I feel that myself sometimes, whether it's related to money or business. I want to start with a story, though. There's Alexander Hamilton, the really famous play Hamilton. You've either seen it or heard about it. But to me, the story, when I watched Alexander Hamilton, he to me is one of the prototypical American figures because of his ambition. He came from nothing in an island in the Caribbean, came to the U.S. as an immigrant, had these just like big, huge ambitions, and often a lot of them were power ambitions and wealth and influence. But it's a tragedy. The story is a tragedy of what happened to Alexander Hamilton. In part, to me, there's one quote in the book, in the movie that said, I think it was his sister-in-law said, "Hey, be careful of this one. Be careful of Alexander Hamilton because he'll never be satisfied." And so he'll never be satisfied. That just stuck with me. And when I think about money, that really resonates with me. Like, hey, eventually you have enough. There's enough money But at the same time, I have this other side of myself that's like, I'm ambitious. Like I have this ambition to solve things and to do things. And I really appreciate your own kind of struggle with that as well, to channel ambition in a way that is healthy and that kind of resonates with everything we're talking about today. So maybe if you don't mind unpacking that a little bit, that's something I think for all of us as entrepreneurs, we have. If you're an A-type entrepreneur who's going out and trying to create financial independence, you have some ambition, and yet there might be some nuance there to how we can apply it in a healthier way.
Yeah, dude, such an important theme, and I'm really happy you brought that up. I opened up the app, which may or may not be visible, but the note, I have been ambivalent in my relationship to ambition. I've been a super ambitious guy, and frankly, when I had more hair and less gray whiskers, it was ambition of the first mountain. It was the wrong wall. So I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be hot. I wanted to be wealthy. Those were my primary drivers as a younger man. There was a level of seduction and just that was it. And I always tried to do the right thing. You know what I mean? I strived to be a good person. But then as I got more, quote, spiritual, if you will, and philosophical, I kind of distanced myself from that ambition. And frankly, that was not an unhealthy thing to do. But then I lost my ambition. It was like it wasn't okay to be ambitious. And I believe there's a kind of a natural evolution that I experienced, that one can experience, where we go from being ambitious on the first mountain, it's all about us and fame and wealth and hotness and all these things, to realizing that isn't it. You have enough success in that world and you realize there's more to life. Then you can tend to go the other way, where ambition's not okay and it burns you out and all the other things, which again, there's truth to both, right? But then I think I have moved beyond it, where I want to integrate my ambition for something bigger than myself. And then my number one inspiration on this is a book called Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin, in which she features, and I'm opening up a philosopher's note in the Heroic app now, she features some of my favorite heroes, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, and Franklin D. Roosevelt. I admire those American heroes a lot. Like they're true heroes for me for different reasons. But what she said they all have in common, they were all very different, character-wise, personality-wise, what they achieved. But the one thing they had in common was fierce ambition. So Abraham Lincoln's ambition was unbelievable, was ferocious. She said it was as central to him as his backbone. His ambition was principally to be worthy of being remembered after he was gone. And again, it wasn't collecting Instagram followers. It was he wanted to be worthy of the admiration of his peers and of his country while he was alive and long after he was alive. And he used that fierce ambition. And it nearly killed him, by the way, because he fell so short of his standards that he wanted to end his own life, right? His friends had to take away all sharp objects from him when he failed in his ambition as a young man. But he was absolutely fiercely committed to being his best self, in service to something bigger than himself. And that's how I channel my ambition now is, I'm all in. I want to help create a world in which 51% of humanity is flourishing. For whatever constellation of reasons, I've been given a certain amount of perspective and gifts to integrate different ideas, and I'm all in. But my ambition now is channeled towards something bigger than myself. And now it's about becoming the healthiest, strongest, hopefully, most noble and virtuous version of myself I can be to serve heroically. But now I don't want to give up any of that ambition. I just want to channel it, make sure my personal ambition is checked, but not eliminated, while I serve as profoundly as I can. Our company is a public benefit corporation, which is a big deal for me, kind of taking the best of the nonprofit heart and soul with a for-profit. I'm a big fan of capitalism and conscious capitalism, and we want to, frankly, I want to create a multi-billion-dollar business. I'm unapologetic in that ambition. I think that, for me, I feel called to do that, while being a great husband and father, and that's my biggest challenge, by the way, as you know, I share constantly, and trying to run a business the way I think my heroes would. What would Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, I've got Jesus on my wall, I was raised Catholic, what would all these noble men, Gandhi, Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt, how would they run a public benefit corporation if we wanted to change the world at scale? But anyway, that's a long answer to your short question. That's how I've integrated my ambition. Another great book is Spiritual Economics. So Eric Butterworth, Oprah Winfrey says he wrote one of her all-time favorite books. He was Maya Angelou's spiritual advisor. He wrote a book called Spiritual Economics. This book changed my life arguably at least as much as any other. And he's the one who told me, don't seek money in material things. Seek the consciousness through which money and material things will come when and as you need it. That's your primary goal. When you make that your primary goal, while still going after it, I'm not saying don't go after it, but make your primary goal being the person worthy of that circulation, as we've discussed a number of times. But that's another book that really helped me channel my ambition in what I consider to be a much more healthy and constructive way.
Love it. Spiritual Economics is on my bookshelf somewhere up there, and it's dog-eared and noted, and I think you introduced me to it, but it's absolutely one of my favorites. Brian, I just want to thank you. This has been an inspiring conversation on top of an inspiring movement you're building. And I know, and also just setting an example, not necessarily of trying to be a perfect person, of being someone who's in the arena. You're doing this. That is deeply inspiring to me as an entrepreneur, as a person who's struggling myself to be the best person I can, to be worthy of the credit, but also the inspiration of other people. So thank you for what you're doing. We're going to put links to the book first and foremost. This is an amazing book. It's thick. It's got, I love that it's got these little bite-sized ideas that if you're someone who just wants, I kind of have these by my bed and I read them a little bit at a time. I'm reading it already and loving it. This is going to be a game changer book for so many people and can't wait to get it in their hands. And I don't know if you have anything to say about the book or where people should get it or anything else you want to say about it. I want to give you the last word, Brian.
Right on, dude. I just want to appreciate you, Chad. Loved our conversation. I appreciate you and just the embodiment of these ideals, the humility, yet the willingness and competence and confidence to put yourself out and to be a guide and to help others as you continue to be the hero of your story. So loved our chat and all the different areas we covered. So Arete, we've talked about it. I've held it up, but really excited about it, proud of it. 451 of the most life-changing ideas I've learned. 2 to 3 page micro chapters. It's a 1,000-page book. I mean, we went all in to help you activate your heroic potential. You can learn more about it at heroic.us/book. We've got the foreword by Phil Stutz. I mentioned the first 11 chapters. You can get a sample if you want, and the audiobook as well. And of course, you can get it Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores. FedEx, dude. We're at FedEx. Let's go. Hudson, airport stores. It's going to be fun.
It's all over. People, check it out. I love it. Brian, thank you again for your time and look forward to connecting in the future.
Bless you, brother.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care.